And I don't know that that system is necessarily conscious, although I can't necessarily say what makes me conscious.
This is going to be 20 years from now, I think, a way of reanimating the dead.
Mm-hmm. You already can. Currently, as things currently stand, you can sit face to face or face to screen with your dead loved one and interact with them.
We see the holodeck for the first time, and like these characters are like interacting with them in real time and appear to have their own thought and everything. And we're like, that could never happen.
Yeah, as if. Hey, everybody, welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and hey, we would love it if you'd like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, leave a comment. I don't know. Give us a thumbs down if you want. That's cool too. We're fine with that. Yeah. Anyway.
Ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga. Hi, I'm Casey Rochford. And I can't fight this feeling that you want to hang out to the end of the episode and hear the song that we wrote that does not go ooga chaka, ooga, ooga chaka. So yeah, check that out. And what would you like to ooga chaka about tonight?
Well, let's see. I'm not sure what you're proposing that we involve ourselves in, but I'm guessing you're asking the topic. Well, so I was thinking, since you're going to be moving away halfway across the planet soon, it occurred to me, like I was thinking about how we could coordinate things and times and everything, and um, it I was wondering, like, could we use an AI system to replicate the show as a oh hi Floyd as like, you know, one of us records ourselves, our real selves, talking to an AI, one of us. Could that happen?
It's like you send me this Zoom invite, but it's actually to an AI, Eric, and you like deep fake me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Halfway through, I'm like, who are you and what did you do with the real Eric?
Yeah, it well, the thing is, like, AI is getting really good. Um
Yeah, that
it
looks exactly like Floyd, but it's
it does,
not.
but he's a simulation, of course. Um Oddly able to interact with the physical world too. But you know, that's part of the masterful illusion. Um well, yeah, it's getting so good, and I'm wondering, like, well, this I guess this kind of, we were kind of talking earlier about this, and it's kind of like, well, you know, there's mixed feelings between people, a lot of disagreement about, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Is it dangerous or is it amazing? And you know, it's very polarizing between people. There's not a lot of people in the middle. It's one side or the other. And so I thought, you know, it'd be really interesting to talk about um like the implications of AI and machine learning, and the good and the bad, and I don't know, like,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Well, I might be in the middle. I don't know, because I'm fascinated with how sophisticated it's gotten. It's certainly a marvel, but it also is just another avenue for crime. You know, deepfakes obviously are going to be used to try to fish. You
Mhm.
know, it's only going to get more complex to tell what's real and what's not, which can be a problem for those who would take advantage of the situation, being that most people can't fathom the idea of reality being fluid.
Yeah. Well,
They
and
think there's just reality and everything else you can obviously tell is just imagination. But when that starts to blur, it's like, what is real?
well, actually, that would definitely go. That particular what you're saying does go into like the philosophical side of things, like simulation theory and stuff, which I think this ties into. Floyd, you're very
We
rambunctious
might,
tonight.
maybe we're all AI.
Well, yeah, and that is
Whoa.
that that is a deep. That's a very very deep thought for so early on in the episode. Um, I guess.
Tell me I gotta go slow. Like
Yeah.
just the tip first and
Yeah,
then
yeah, take it easy. I'm not drunk enough yet. So
not
well,
dropping philosophical loads all over their ears right now. Oh yeah,
dropping
dropping
philosophical loads all over your brain. Oh man. Well, so I'm kind of one of those people that like yes, I could see the concerns that people have over the direction that technology has gone as far as like AI is concerned. But the good, as far as I'm concerned, far outweighs the potential bad. And like you'd mentioned, crime and stuff. Sure, absolutely, that could be used for nefarious purposes, just like anything. Like cryptocurrency and stuff. That's the thing that the government always uses as a convenient argument against cryptocurrency to get people. They propagandize it to say, oh, it's only used by criminals and blah blah blah, and um, but that ignores all of the potential good, and of course, the good is good of the people, and it's bad for the government, so they want to make it look like it's bad for us, so people will be afraid of it or willing to allow ridiculous legislation to pass um, to thwart those things. Um, and I, with AI, machine learning kind of systems, like, yeah, there's certainly potential bad. At least currently, how things are. I mean, most of the bad is basically just not people not being able to tell the difference between an actual person and the AI, or people using like Chat GPT for their school assignments to essentially cheat, because you can with that very very easily. Although it is currently at this point kind of simple if if you've got like an IQ of over 90, you can pretty much figure out that that wasn't an actual person um, that wrote that.
Huh.
Um,
So
but
what are there like tricks that you can implant to make sure somebody's not a robot? Um,
yeah, yeah, well, certainly that, but there's also uh, tells, essentially like giveaways, in particular dealing with like if say you're a teacher and you're grading an assignment or whatever. You can definitely tell when something is not written by that particular student. They have their way, and once you
yeah,
know it, well, the AI isn't going to necessarily be able to replicate a particular student's method of communication or writing. um and it's the same thing as the same stuff that's been going on forever. Students lifting whole entire things out of an encyclopedia and then claiming it. Oh, I wrote that. Like, okay, well, this is very obvious you did not write that. you know?
Well, so AI can also like create art and um, even kind of wax philosophical.
Yeah.
So it sort of begs the question, like, is this just a life form?
Um,
Is it one life form, like some kind of fungus that takes up the entire like underground of Oregon, or or are these like individual AIs with individual personalities and stuff? Like,
well,
is your Alexa more of a my Alexa?
I,
Like,
yes, I think so. Especially when you're now, if you're talking like um, Chat GPT is kind of encapsulated in the moment. So every experience is fresh. Whereas Alexa learns from you um, to some extent. So there's the things change based on your behavior, your patterns of use. So for sure, well, the same thing with like search engines. Google, for instance, if you search for things on Google over and over and over again, it will pick up on your patterns of searching
yeah,
and feed you information, especially based on like what you click on, how long you spend on pages, all that stuff. Um, so it will tune itself to your behavior to, I wouldn't say give you the best results, but give you the results that best fit what you're desiring in
I get
essence.
what they're going for, but it's really hard to be precise enough to do it correctly. And that's like you're providing convenience instead of having to sift through 20 pages to find like three reliable stories. It's going to try to bring them forward. Now, the trouble with that is humans write all this shit, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't really quantify with, put something into a rigid box and say it's always going to be accurate about this. And so I'm going to pull this information.
Mm-hmm.
It could easily have a slant on another story, and that's where things start to go askew. And yeah, I don't know that AI or actual or actual intelligence like could ever really fix anything to be quite that precise. You know what I mean?
No, I think you're right. Well, humans certainly will not be able to do that in any close time frame. But
Right.
AI is probably our best hope at basically eking out the truth of a matter, or as getting as close as we can to factual information, um, or being able to identify the slant of said information. Uh,
In in a way, AI can make its own decisions, right?
yeah.
That also kind of sounds like life to me. Like if it's capable of doing that, I find it hard to deny the possibility that it's somehow formulating some kind of thought, algorithmically even. I mean,
Well,
it's not like poof, thought comes into existence. There are probably like rudimentary states of consciousness that we wouldn't necessarily call alive at some point, but you know what I mean?
yeah, and I wouldn't. I mean, this is going into Star Trek territory, like Measure of a Man kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like a worthy discussion for sure. Um, I and yeah, I guess I could say, like what is life? Yeah. Um, and I don't know that that system is necessarily conscious. Although I can't necessarily say what makes me conscious. We human beings are algorithmically driven as well. It's just a
Yeah.
more wet system than uh, the current state of AI. But that doesn't change the fact that essentially the processes are similar, and it actually makes sense if you think about it, because these AI systems are programmed by humans to do human stuff, to essentially calculate and compute things that we calculate and compute, just faster or broader.
This is going to be 20 years from now, I think, a way of reanimating the dead.
Mm-hmm. You already can.
Yeah. Like,
At
but
least,
like they're like a golem or something, like you would actually be able to, like, in the physical world, interact with an AI version of your dead loved one.
well, yeah, actually, currently you can on a screen.
On screen.
So it isn't that far of a leap to say, well, if we figured out how to do, say, like the holodeck or something, that those you could basically have a physical representation of that. But yeah, you can take your dead loved one, input pictures and texts and things they wrote. You can input recordings, but voice stuff. So if you got home movies, whatnot, all that stuff, you can put that in, and it currently, as things currently stand, you can sit face to face or face to screen with your dead loved one and interact with them. And they interact in an uncannily accurate way.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're just getting started. Like, this is we're like infants when it comes to this. So
I think it's funny that, like, in the 80s we're watching Star Trek and we see the holodeck for the first time, and like these characters are like interacting with them in real time and appear to have their own thought and everything. And we're like, that could never happen.
yeah, as if, like as you're playing your Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis or something, like, oh yeah, right. Computers are never going to get that advanced.
Crazy.
Yeah, well, I'm actually honestly pretty hopeful. I mean, especially what you're talking about replicating the dead. In a way, once things have been evolved a little bit more, you could effectively live forever.
Yeah.
Your collected works. I mean, something like us, right? We have a YouTube presence. We have probably thousands of hours of video and discussion and all kinds of things. And an AI could take all that and figure out who we are, essentially, and keep us alive. Like, we could become a purely AI channel where this bot is essentially just churning out episodes based on random topics. So, like, it could be viewer comments, it could be it seeks out its own things and then challenges.
That's how we go viral.
Yeah.
We just have AI do it.
Which we should do that. We really, like, I don't know accessibility wise how much of this we could pull off, but put it down there in the comments. Should we do episodes where it's purely AI or interacting with an AI's AI versions of each other interacting with, like, wouldn't that be crazy? Like, what would the AI think of us?
We should have, like, AI generate like a first season Eric, and then you're like arguing with yourself.
Well, one of the fantastic things about the current state of machine learning and AI is problem solving.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever seen videos of AIs solving problems, like real human problems, designing things that work better, car parts or tools or machines, or even just like figuring out how to get through Super Mario Brothers faster and better. It's fascinating. And those systems, because they're so they're exhaustive in their coverage of things, and like it, they find solutions, like very novel solutions to problems that it would take a human being forever, or if they ever figured it out, you know, like it's pretty cool. And that to me is the beneficial side, the side that everybody should be excited about, is like, you know, think about it. You can use these kinds of algorithmic systems to solve medical problems, uh, cures for diseases, engineering challenges that nobody can figure out. You can have machines figure those things out for us, instead of taking, you know, laboring over something for, you know, 60 years. It happens in 60 seconds. Like
Oh,
that's the power of that.
here's a thought experiment. We should just make this like an episode somehow. But if we asked AI to cure cancer,
Mm.
and it does, like in no time, that would kind of suggest that maybe there could be some truth to the whole like cover up of cures for diseases and stuff like that being,
Yeah.
of course, uh, driven by profit and greed and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, like if AI came up with something like that that may or may not exist, that would be pretty telling.
Yeah.
You could use it to bust conspiracies, or at
Yes.
least increase probabilities.
Yes, you could. Absolutely. Oh, now I'm gonna have to go to Chat GPT and type in "tell me the cure for cancer" and see what it gives me. That'd be interesting.
We have like a dark web at WebMD, dark WebMD.
Dark web empty. Uh,
Dark WebMD. I'm stricken with XYZ disease that has no cure. Is there a cure? And Dark WebMD is all like, of course, bro. Give me 2 seconds. And then he's like, here you go.
well, that's actually one of the great benefits of AI systems like that too, in diagnoses.
Yeah.
If you
To run differentials.
Well, yeah, if you had symptoms, you know, a lot of people go to places like WebMD, and of course, you know, everybody, the trope is it's all cancer. Like you go to WebMD and type in any symptom, and yeah, you probably have cancer. Um, but an AI system could collect information and even ask you further questions to clarify, um, and give you a pretty good answer. Um, Assuming the information it has access to is good. Obviously, if you're using the internet, there's going to be a collection of mostly factual information combined with a lot of conspiratorial uh, craziness, tinfoil hat stuff. But you know, maybe that's how you discover the truth.
The truth is out there,
Yeah,
but you gotta work to find it.
unless you use an AI, then the AI does all the work for you,
Yeah,
which
but
does actually raise a
but AI can be
concern.
fooled too.
Well, yeah, and it kind of raises a concern to me. It's like, okay, well, as long as your AI is open source, um, people can vet this system for flaws or corruption. But if you use like a closed source AI, you don't know who's been fiddling with things behind the scenes, changing the program.
Huh, that's a good
So
point.
like that could lead people into some pretty crazy directions.
Like that should almost be like a constitutional right for this new life form of AI. Because if you think about it, that is kind of like uh autonomy for them
Mm-hmm.
in a way. Like we're like the natural force that acts on their evolution. And however much control we try to have over it or not depends on whether it gets choked out of existence or if it's allowed to thrive and
Yeah,
continue to evolve.
I think as long as we adopt a hands-off approach where we accept that maybe things go in directions we that make us uncomfortable, but let it go because eventually things settle
Just the
down.
tip at first,
Yeah, yeah,
like we talked
exactly.
about at the start of the show.
Yeah, yeah. But that's really important. Like we need to stop manipulating things that we don't really understand. And honestly, yeah, there's we understand AI systems quite a bit. I mean, we did make them after all, but it's deeper than that. Um, and you know, the question of is this a life form? I would say, yeah. I mean, how do you know? I guess a definition of life. What makes something alive? What makes something sentient?
Oh, that
Um,
would require changing the definition of life.
well,
Like biological life,
and,
which is the only life we've been able to conceive of so far
yeah,
as a
physical,
species. Yeah.
physical life. Yeah, like so. What about an AI? What if?
It has no biology.
No, it doesn't. It's an algorithm. It's data. It's
Yeah.
numbers, bits, and
Yeah.
stuff
So
like that.
everything we consider life is already a moot point, not
Mhm.
applicable.
Although,
There's some analog, of course, but
oh, for sure there is, and I mean, if you consider the simulation theory of our existence, that maybe we're just a bunch of ones and zeros and some
yeah.
galactic supercomputer. Um, how can we consider our own creation to not be alive, even if it possesses all the features we consider to be indicative of life? It, and that's so AI on Earth was created by human beings. Like we created it. We created it in our own image, um, essentially, um, to do things that we do. Like it is as human as we are. It just doesn't have the corporeal presence that we do. That doesn't mean it's just a like a program that you can copy and paste and delete and mess with at your whim. Like after a certain amount of time, when this software has collected enough information, yeah, could it be considered alive?
Hmm. I I think so. And I'm a biologist.
Yeah.
I don't get any stake in the game anymore. You know, like, I handle all life that lives and breathes, buddy. You got to go talk to the mechanobiologist over.
You're the carbon-based life form guy. Yeah,
Yeah, that would kind of be a silicon based life, then, wouldn't it?
it kind of would be. Yeah,
Aha! Ooh, interesting.
yeah. Just not in the way that is traditionally thought in sci-fi circles.
Right. That's more of a chemistry thing, whereas this is more of a vehicle.
Yeah, yeah, kind of. I mean, it's kind of a tool, at least in the beginning, but just like the exocomps in Star Trek TNG, that particular episode that I love so much.
Yeah.
Um, you build a tool to do a thing and make the scope big enough, and that tool might go beyond its original scope. It's no longer just a screwdriver Like now it's redesigning new screws and new ways of putting screws in, and just throwing away screws and saying, "Oh, I've created a new type of fastener now." Um, I mean, that's kind of what these systems are. These machine learning systems, like they.
Well, actually, I want to pump the brakes and apply a little skepticism, because we might be fooling ourselves into thinking this is life, but really, like, some of these things it's capable of doing seem so bombastic and unlikely to us because we just haven't really thought about it enough. You know, it could just be, that like the exocomps in Star Trek TNG simply made a cost versus risk or whatever, risk cost analysis or whatever, and
Yep.
said like, oh, if I go in there and I blow up, I cost this much money, but like it's just going to be like wipe things down and like put some new phase conducer coils in there and
Yeah.
reverse the polarity and there and you're good. Uh Maybe it was like, I'm going to save the company money. And then everyone's like, oh my God, it wanted to protect itself.
Well, it could be, and that's the risk, or the, I guess, the thing to consider
Mm-hmm.
is things like pareidolia and stuff, where you see patterns that um, aren't actually there, but they appear close enough to something that we recognize, that we kind of nudge them into those boxes. And
And our
some of
old
these,
friend anthropomorphizing.
yes, yeah, exactly. Well, and that is something that certainly happens, especially things that feel very human,
Yeah.
or very alive. We tend to, well, it's like the robot girlfriend kind of thing. It's like, yeah, people can actually fall in love with like a robot or a sex doll or something like that. That can happen. It's an inanimate object, but we kind of project our own humanity on a thing,
Uh-huh.
whatever it might be, like cars, toys, uh, like stuff, heirlooms, and things like that. Um, we project those kinds of feelings onto things, and believe that they are endowed with some kind of energy like that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this thing,
I
but
think I think people get afraid when they like can't tell if it's real or fake, like a deep fake or something, because they're like, uh, you know, I've always been able to rely on this like knowing like in a second, right? Then you're second guessing yourself on like what's real. And meanwhile, while we're thinking like, oh, look how much we're advancing, what if the actual technology behind consciousness is actually just going through entropy now, and we're actually seeing a de-evolution of a technology
hmm,
coming from the future.
interesting. Huh. That's a very interesting thought.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like what if consciousness is kind of this like in multiple sclerosis where uh it's almost like a cable, right, with the insulation around it.
Yeah.
And multiple sclerosis is like losing that. So like power just leaks out. Yeah.
Oh, you're
It's
talking
not
like
good enough.
nerves and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Like what if that's all consciousness is and it's just wearing down and what if we're in hell?
Well, that's a good point. But like what you're saying kind of does sort of bring up something that I think about often. Is, hi Floyd. Uh, huh. Um, the like the ability to differentiate between what is real and what's not real, and like maybe all of this is not real at all. Maybe everything is just a dream.
I'm
and
starting to see
honestly,
that. Yeah,
how could
simulation theory is making sense now.
well,
AI.
yeah, and think about it. How would you be able, as an individual, how would you be able to test for that? Just you're like, I want to know if this is real or not. How could you test for that?
Blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
there is no way that you can do that. And short of maybe killing yourself, but even then, what if that's part of the program too? And there's an algorithm handler for that. So it's like, oh, well, we'll just do the thing, um, move towards the light and all that stuff. Like, how would you be able to tell that anything is real? We don't know. Ugh, oh,
Ugh,
this just got super deep.
yeah. God, I like that actually hurt my soul right here. Like I can feel it that deep. It's a
Mm.
short little soul ache there.
Well, it's a fourth dimensional object, so of course it could
I
be small, but it's big at the same time.
I was thinking about that. Like, are we in hell? Like in an AI sense, maybe, but what if we are though? Because I think a lot of people have this idea that it has to be all suffering, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you get desensitized over time if you don't
Sure.
have reprieves. So what if this random anything goes kind of universe that we live in is fucking hell? Because
Well,
you can be brought up higher just to be dropped that much farther.
and even people who have seemingly good lives, anxiety is can cause extreme discomfort. You
Oh
don't
yeah.
have to have anything actively going on in your life to feel like shit. So I actually had this kind of one of the thoughts that was a component of my journey from Christianity towards agnosticism and atheism was kind of this idea that hell, like we do live in hell right now.
Yeah.
That it isn't that you're experiencing eternal suffering, it's that you have to go back and do it all over again, Groundhog Day style. Like, oh, I died. I thought I got out, but no, I'm back. Now I'm a baby again. Growing up and going through the same shit over and over and over again,
Yeah.
like until some threshold, some criteria is met. Which it'd be like water torture, just constant, just drip, drip, drip of your life recycling over and over and over again, having to relive the very same things many, many times over.
Mm.
Um, it yeah, maybe our existence currently is hell. I lean more towards the simulation theory of existence, especially based on the way certain things work.
Not a literal hell, but more like it could just be the state of consciousness that people were referring to when this whole concept of these fiery pits came into existence. Like
Yeah.
whatever imagery we ascribe to it is just all fluff, right? Like the
Mhm.
concept is a harrowing like thought of this eternal torture, pain, 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 nothing but pain. And meanwhile, have you been alive? Like it's fucking life, like pain, pain, pain. Like you're always in some kind of
Well,
pain.
I suppose one could argue that unless you've existed in hell, you don't know pain. Like you think it's bad now,
Right.
but you haven't seen bad. you know.
And
So,
I've seen that a few times here on Earth. So yeah.
oh yeah, there's certainly been some things. So just to put people's minds at ease, though, the concept of hell or heaven, for that matter, doesn't make any sense from a physics standpoint, from like an astrophysics kind of standpoint. Like that's a huge waste of energy and matter for what? Like, why does that exist? Why would that exist? Why would there be a place where, well, and why does it pick on people of all things? I mean, is there a dog hell? Is there a hell for dolphins or the like Tolarians or something like that? I mean,
I think God was eating a donut when
yeah,
he
yeah. Like, why are we the only ones that are singled out to be either blessed with, I don't know, playing harps on clouds or being poked with a like a molten piece of metal for the rest of eternity? Like,
bro, I can't wait to sit on a cloud and pluck a harp.
but I
Man,
mean,
I'm itching. Like, I can't wait. God, hell is what sounds fun to me.
you got some weird kinks, man. uh, but I mean, does it even make any sense? But why? Why would that exist? Like, and who set aside what force set aside these quadrants, these little pockets for the good and the bad people? Who made the rules and why? And then, well, what about the people who don't have knowledge of those things? Like, why be a dick to them? They didn't even know, but they didn't follow your rules. Oh, and now they're in like a fiery pit for the rest of eternity because they didn't happen to get a book in their hands that, yeah. Oh, anyway, going off on a rant there, but um, so okay, let's come back to Earth a little bit for a moment. There's actually a couple thoughts that I have, but one, like, I do kind of want to talk about the dark side of some of these kind of AI systems that I see a potential.
Good.
Yes. So, like I said, these algorithms are problem solving devices. Um, and they do solve problems pretty well, sometimes not so well. Um, but they solve problems in novel ways. So imagine an AI system, like, say, I don't know, a more advanced version of Chat GPT, uh, is utilized by a military somewhere. And the problem is we want to win and we want to basically take over the world. And so this system, its little numbers start crunching and, feeds out information. Like, when something like that is employed for warfare, I could see some very, very bad things happening. Um,
One comes to mind.
hmm.
Let's say there's a meteor headed for Earth, and we're like, hey, AI, can you help us figure out how to stop this thing? Because if not, it's going to slam into us, and the only thing left around here will be the AI. And then the AI is like, here's the solution.
Which
And then
conveniently
it doesn't
results in our
work.
destruction.
Yeah.
Well, I could see that happening, and that's a more benign version of what I'm thinking. But yeah, certainly, I would hope. I would hope that the AI is being developed and trained by human beings would appreciate and adopt human sentiments, um, the good ones,
I would think
hopefully.
so.
And if they're intelligent and if they're actually life forms, they probably would. Um, it
Well, even it's not even human. Like, the animal kingdom has, maybe slightly different, but like they have their own sets of social mores and rights and wrongs and things like that. Like you don't really see a whole lot of cannibalism in the animal kingdom because people generally don't fuck with their bros. It's just
Well,
kind
yeah,
of like the nature.
and a properly educated AI system would take those things into consideration when it comes to solving problems. Like, okay, I'm not going to limit my information to only this subsect of data. I'm
Yeah.
going to look at all the data because, hey, if you can compute that fast, well, you pretty much could look at all the data all at once and put it all together. Um,
Huh.
but I think if something like this is used in anger, um, it could have some pretty bad consequences. Especially, well, I mean, I want to say like Skynet, but I mean, if we actually connected these systems to control machines of war and say, hey, I'm just going to unleash you, go ahead and do your thing and win this war for me at all costs, I could see some bad things happening. And I could definitely, there are some militaries around the world that I could see choosing to do that. Like if it were an option, choosing to do that. And that's kind of terrifying, actually.
What if what if AI could be made into a sort of virus and it already has, and maybe that's what like conspiratorial thinking is, right? It's programmed thoughts that get stuck in some of us quite a bit more than others, almost like a disease. But it's all artificial, it's all made up, and it's all kind of controlled by this hive mind.
Ooh, it's an interesting thought. Although I'd be inclined to think that those kinds of things are the product of human behavior, our psychology, the way we operate, and the way we communicate, and uh, the type of information that's shared. That's like, well, that's the thing. It's like people don't sit around and watch positive, uplifting videos. They tend towards like true crime and like awful stuff. It's like people slowing down at a car crash to just look, like the lollygaggers and stuff. People
Yeah.
they love seeing a tragedy. Um, and I think it's the same thing going on there. That the human psychology tends towards assuming the darkest thing first. Like, oh, it has to be the worst possible thing. That's where everybody's mind goes whenever anything happens. Like, oh, it must be whatever terrible thing I can conjure up. I'm going to default to that. It can't possibly be the innocent option. It's got to be the most devious and terrible option. People, and those have weight. Things are weighted. People like analyze things in kind of that sort of weighted system. And the happy options, the happy thoughts tend to be lighter. And the things that are darker and mysterious and nefarious tend to have a lot more weight. And so it's really hard to pull yourself away from that. And they're very attractive. It's like, who doesn't love a good conspiracy? You know, like, because I mean, it does kind of seem like there's some forces working behind the scenes, like the man behind the curtain pulling levers and stuff. It's like, why the hell is all this shit happening? Why me? Why is this happening to me? Well, there must be, there's gotta be, the universe has got to have it out for me. And if you're spiritual or religious, then you're going to take your God or the antithesis of your God and push that kind of behavior onto them.
Yeah.
Like, this is why. And then you're going to ask the question, like, I must have done something wrong. Like, what did I do wrong? And well, there you go.
Hmm.
It's never, hey, the universe just exists and matter and energy is moving around and coincidences happen. And it just so happens you were here at this time, or you had this genetics, or I don't know, whatever, ingested this substance, and that was what did it. Just a bad turn of events. Nope, can't be that. There has to be some cosmic rationale behind it. There has to be a mind behind all of these things happening, because we have minds and we act, like interact with the universe. So of course the universe must be the same way.
Yeah, we're nothing special. Most of us got here because of a broken condom. So if you think you're that special, well, think again, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I wouldn't say, I mean, every single living thing is special in its own right, but ultimately on a cosmic scale, yeah, we're
We're all
nothing.
broken condoms.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, it's probably an accident, just a random collection of circumstances that led to life existing on Earth to begin with. Um, I kind of actually hope that that's the case, because that means life will exist elsewhere. Like,
Yeah.
if it was deliberate, well, we're probably alone in the universe, and there is a very cruel God laughing maniacally at our struggles. But if it's an accident, well, we're not alone out there, and there's probably some Eric out there on some far-flung planet orbiting some distant star, doing the very same thing, talking to his like companion on a like some other YouTube video or something like that. I don't know.
Hey man, I'm that co-host.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Hmm.
Yeah, that's geez. Are we getting into like multiple universes now?
Oh man. Yeah, kinda. Well, and when it comes to simulation theory, there's no limit to the number of universes as well.
I mean, you could argue mathematically, I suppose, that this is simultaneously an artificial existence, and we're saying there must be a real one out there somewhere. Or it's the flip where we're a real existence where like we could be trapped in an artificial one, like
Mhm.
but they
I,
could be both true in some different timelines.
yeah, I think you're right, and
All
honestly,
perception.
it is. And what is reality? I like separating the difference between real and artificial is difficult. It's a challenge, because what makes things exist? What is existence? What is reality? Even if we understand it, we still don't know far deeper into the system what actually is real, what constitutes reality. And it very well may be that it's a simulation, but that doesn't make it not real, because maybe simulation is all there is. Um, so,
Nobody's real were the deep philosophical words uttered by the philosophers Power Man 5000. And, and it's a very poignant statement, I think, because like uh, I mean, I don't want to say that we're simulations or we're artificial intelligence necessarily, but we probably aren't far off the techno bio evolutionary tree,
mm-hmm.
because I think this is kind of a precursor sort of epoch in tech where we could start integrating it with biology.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh,
like we were
cybernetics.
talking about with golems of the dead and having their intelligence and personality basically on the fly, like made up for you based
Yeah.
on your input. And how do you know, like, why isn't that real? Maybe it is.
Maybe it is. Yeah. Well, in cybernetics, like if we start replacing our biological systems with mechanized ones, at what point are we no longer human? At what point are we no longer alive,
We'll
essentially?
never know what consciousness is.
No.
Don't even think, like, it's not like there's going to be like some guy who erases something on a chalkboard and puts another little mark there and he stands back and he goes like, that's consciousness. Like it's not going to be like that.
Well, yeah, and I would challenge anybody who thinks they understand what consciousness is to define consciousness without using words that require further definition that don't ultimately circle back to consciousness, because it's not possible. It is not possible. Well, it's like, oh God, this is going back to Star Trek. It's like defining anger or love.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't do that in a non-emotional way. It always requires emotion. Consciousness always comes back to consciousness being
Oh yeah.
the origin of the explanation. And so like correlating this to our conversation about AI and machine learning, like I would tend to err on the side of machines being conscious before dismissing their consciousness, um, especially because
Yeah.
they're built by our own hands, our own minds, to solve problems that are our own problems. And
Yeah.
so we're building them to think like us. And ultimately, they will think like us and probably will become us. And to extend that a little further down the timeline, it isn't that ridiculous to figure that perhaps another species of living things did the same in the past, that we are the product, we are the AI that somebody else developed to solve their problems, and now we're creating worlds within worlds.
Mm.
Like,
I tell you what, I don't think these humans are mature enough to handle this stage, because we're only just now kind of starting to recognize that, like an octopus is, maybe on our level, even though they're probably like a couple levels above us, honestly. But
mhm.
we're just getting to that phase. Yet technologically, we're already at this point where we're like, maybe we can create consciousness. And it's like, well, whoa, slow down,
Whoa
buddy.
now. Yeah.
Y'all are not ready for that. Let's make up some parlor magician, call him Q, try to
Well,
stop them.
yeah. I think that certainly technologically speaking, the human race has developed too fast for its own good.
Yep.
Um,
The cart is before the horse.
yeah, and maybe that's just our special trait, is we're able to think way beyond our current station in life. Because I mean, if you think about it, mentally speaking, human beings should essentially be agrarian uh, people. We're on the level of farmers and
I, I
things
don't
like
think we
that.
can rear eggs because we're not poultry. I'm not egg rearing at all.
Well, I mean, our minds are about on par with that level of technology. Yet we have spaceships. We have
Yeah.
nuclear bombs and power plants and electricity and computers and all this kind of stuff. Satellites communicating across the planet. Um, but yet we're still just as dumb as we were 1,000 years ago. If you think, not you, Casey, but the general people out there, if you think that you're more advanced than the people who built the pyramids, you're deluding yourself. Like, we are no more advanced than they are or were. In
I
fact,
mean,
in some ways, they were more advanced.
yeah. I mean, yeah. That's probably more accurate than anything else, because like if you think about it, your offspring will not always be better than you in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes the old ways make sense more than the new ways. Sometimes. Yeah. But not always. In fact, oftentimes not. Because evolution does require improvements upon things. So there's you should put greater weight on the new way of doing things than the old way of doing things, just because you know for 100% certainty nothing will change if you keep doing it the old way.
Yeah.
But if you want something to change, there's only one way to go.
And that is the new way.
Yeah, you have to try it. You got to lean into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that.
Oh, that's a very good point, though. Well, yeah, we do have to be challenged to evolve. And I don't consider evolution to happen in a technological sense. I think about it in like a biological sense. And we haven't really evolved in a very long time. I mean, sure, a little bit here and there, some changes and stuff.
Oh, that's evolution.
Yeah.
It's all from how far back you're looking.
Sure. But the issue that I have is that our technological advancement has outpaced our biological advancement.
Yeah.
To the point where we no longer have to deal with the problems, the challenges, the things that affected us biologically in the past. Now we can overcome them. Like, we've basically fixed everything, and now we don't have to evolve at all. Like, in fact, we're kind of going in a weird direction where I could see human beings evolving to have like myopic views so they can like see phone screens and things like that. That's a survival trait. Like, oh yeah, if you can like, your fingers are more like tuned to touching a touch screen and swiping and stuff like that, that apparently would be a survival skill. And it would be like, sure, it's not technically a survival skill, but it makes more babies. Like, like and that is what.
Look at how he looks at his phone screen. That's so hot.
Well,
right?
no, but having those traits, being able to interact with these devices and do things in certain ways, will yield more offspring, and that selects for people who can do that better, which I could see that kind of going in a stupid direction. Like, maybe WALL-E is correct. Like, that movie might be right.
Which one?
WALL-E?
Oh, I was thinking Idiocracy.
Oh, Idiocracy too. Yeah. Where basically nobody has any practical skills. It's all like superficial skills, if you can call them that. I could see that happening. But then,
is that a biological evolution though? I mean, maybe, but I don't know.
Well, it would be, because think about it. It doesn't matter what makes you as a person survive better. Well, to a point, it does, but it's how many babies you can have. That's all that counts. How many babies you can have with your particular genetic traits. That's it. That's all that matters. So the people that can have more babies are the ones that those kinds of genetic interactions happen. Um, doesn't mean that it's better for survival. I mean, it used to be uh, back in the days when we were using torches and spears and stuff like that. But now we don't need torches and spears. We have guns and light bulbs. Well, and now our light bulbs are LED. So
Unless you're a stupid Brit, then you call a light bulb a torch.
a torch, yeah, yeah, exactly. Hmm. But I could see that kind of going in like that sort of direction. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing. I feel like
Yeah.
as a species, we need challenges. We need to overcome things physically. Um, that's the only way we're going to evolve. And sure, maybe the zombie apocalypse will happen. Maybe nuclear war will happen. And then, yeah, there will be plenty of adversity to overcome.
It gets tiring,
Mm.
like fighting a bunch of bullshit in life. I almost wonder if the general breakdown of society is just this kind of somehow persisting trait, maybe kind of like a genetic disease that just ravages through time. But like maybe we're just getting too weak to be a species, and evolution is acting on us and giving us these shitty lives and basically saying we're on the way out. We're on the way off the edge of a branch. We're
That
done.
could be, although I kind of view things as cyclical. So I feel like we'll decline and then reemerge in different ways.
Yeah.
Although, like, things being shitty is subjective, it's a perceptual sort of thing. Like, it just kind of depends on how you view things.
Yeah. Yes and no.
Well, okay, if you're being whipped by somebody, okay, I think everybody could universally agree that
Right.
that is shitty. But circumstances, conditions of your life, the perception is going to vary in that regard. And I wouldn't say that things have ever gotten any worse.
Show me a person that can't complain about anything.
Yeah.
Like we've all, it doesn't matter if we all agree on what's bad or how much of things in a percent are bad. None of that matters. There's bad stuff. It needs to be fixed. If we can fix it. So like, why be like, well, yeah, no. Yeah. Let's not talk about that. That's a negative thought. Why don't we think about that shit and try to fix it?
Well, I agree. And I do think about that. Though, of course, it comes down to like, you shouldn't waste your energy on things that you have no control over, that you can't fix. And this is where AI actually comes in.
How do you know you can't until you try?
Well, but you don't. Okay, knowledge is power. The only
Cue the more you know with the kitchen sink.
Yeah. Well, but it's true that people struggle for their whole lives, struggling to solve like a particular problem in their life. But it's the lack of one simple piece of information that prevents them from solving that problem. A piece of information that could be very obvious, very simple, like, oh, and I want to say like one simple trick, but that there are things like that. Like, okay, actually, in fact, when you look out there, a lot of problems are very easy to solve. What's challenging is knowing how to solve them. And sure, it's very easy to look and be like, well, there's a problem. Hey, I'm bleeding. I've got to cover that so I don't bleed anymore. Well, okay, sure, that makes sense on the surface, but why are you bleeding? Like, there's more to the story, essentially. And this is where I think AI could help a lot. Like, helping us hone in, zero in on problems and come up with better solutions to those problems, ignoring all of the nonsensical details that people have been wasting millennia
Yeah.
spinning their wheels over and over again, trying the same shit and not solving a problem. Like, AI could do that. Like, it could be like, look, bitch, hey, stop it. Like, it's
Would
this.
here's a philosophical question though. If you wanted to hide information from AI, do you think you could do it by creating like a Russian doll of puzzles, right? Like it has to get through all of these puzzles and find the key to unlock each one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then what if the key for the final lock to the answer to what you're trying to hide from AI is that instead of the key, you hold the key here and turn with that?
Nice.
See what I'm saying?
Nice actually having a key in your hands. That was cool.
I figured I needed the visual for that one because that was kind of deep. But like, could AI really think that far outside the box? Like turn the key around?
Not initially, but these are machine learning systems. So just like humans, they will observe and collect data. And eventually that trick won't work anymore. So you're going to have to get ever more clever
Yeah.
to hide things or trick the AI.
That,
Certainly in the
that
beginning.
feels like life.
You pretty much is.
Yeah.
So now imagine turning this inside out. So these forces that seemingly work against you are now your allies and are now fighting against the things that plague you, that trouble you.
Yeah.
That's where I see AI really working. Like I said, solving medical problems and stuff like the stuff that people have scratched their heads over for forever. Like, well, how do we solve this thing? We could use AI to do it, and that's where we should be doing that. I mean, yeah, it's fun to go to these AI sites and type in some humorous things and have it make some videos for you and stuff for amusement. But this is a fantastical tool, like way more amazing than I think people realize. Um,
I just have this like visual of us like standing on top of a supercomputer and we're like, yeah,
like the beginning of 2001, do I have to be like and like throw a bone into the air?
that's kind of how it is. Like we've got this technology and we're like using it like cavemen would.
Yeah, pretty much like looking up porn, essentially. Like, you have a tool that could probably figure out how to cure all the cancers, and you type in, tell me an erotic story about butt sex. Like,
But
that's what you've used this for. I mean, it's a very idiocracy thing to do, and honestly, I don't have any sympathy for humankind at that point. If that's all we do with this amazing, revolutionary technology, but that's kind of what we're doing. Like, oh, just cheating on our tests at school.
We find things that make us go.
Exactly. Oh man.
Will you make it go?
Oh, yeah.
That was an interesting episode, like the whole idea that you could dumb shit your way into space, even like
Mm-hmm.
even complete morons can figure out how to get out there. And
Which does kind of make the people who spend decades engineering very complex machinery to do that, it kind of makes you feel like ass at that point.
yeah,
Like, well, wait a minute.
next time somebody asks me which alien species do you think are represented in Star Trek as actual like humans, I think I'd be like the Paklins. They're total idiots, but they're out in space.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. So we've been talking for quite a while now. I just wanted so you had mentioned a little bit a while back about AI generated art.
Hmm.
And I guess kind of a good kind of fin-
Positive
finality, I
end.
guess, would be to talk about, is AI generated art actually art?
Oh, absolutely. Like art is just random choices expressed in some way, right? And people may enjoy that. Like our show is art.
Yeah.
You know, like each and every episode is entirely unique. And you could say that for any show
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube, right? Even though ours is better.
Ours is the best.
But like that's art, right? Like you can't actually recreate that exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess I would, for people who doubt that. Well, there was a time when the camera was first invented, the film camera. Um, People didn't consider photography to be art. They're like, well, you're just merely capturing what already exists.
Right.
But it's like, well, there's more to it. It's the framing, the scene, the time, like where you are in relation to the objects, how it's placed in this particular photograph. That is expressive. And yeah, art is expression. And AI generated art, I feel, is art. Now, yes, it's based on observed data from human beings, like all of our stuff that we've created. So if you tell Chat GPT to show me a video of, I don't know, The Simpsons in an artistic way or something like that, it will, and it will be unique. And people will say, well, that's algorithmic. Well, so are we. And that creation is based on our creations. It isn't something that was generated necessarily ad hoc. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm just going to like plug a bunch of numbers into something and procedurally generate some stuff. No, it's like taking our own stuff and putting it together in very, frankly, clever ways.
Yeah.
Um, and I would say it's art. Now, who is the artist? That
Well,
there's,
absolutely the AI.
yeah.
Because any art is created by what kind of day you had.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you program inputs and outputs that are based on one another, you've created a media for a thing to have a day. Like whatever inputs and outputs it receives is having a day,
Mm-hmm.
having a good day, having a bad day. It's having days, and whatever it creates is going to be based off of that input.
Well, yeah, and I don't think its expression, AI currently, its expression is based around like its own current daily experiences. It's more about like the questions you ask, and
But
people
the
will argue.
finesse comes from that.
Well, sure. Um, Now people will argue, well, it's not art because it's just taking stuff from the internet and putting it together. Well, I got news for you, bitch. All art is derivative.
Yep.
Everything is derivative. And if you think for 1 second that
I was going to
the
talk about
things that you create don't somehow come from something someone else did in the past, well, yeah,
Yep.
you're crazy. And that's one of the things. Like,
if you tap the guitar during a solo, do you have to pay Eddie Van Halen's family? Like,
exactly. Yeah, it's all derivative. And yet, somehow, it's all unique. Yeah. Oh man. Wow. This is deep. This is like super deep.
yeah, I mean, wow. Like, we're getting to the fabric of reality. Pretty sure by season 5 or 6, we'll get there. We'll open up a rift in space time and all that. Hang out for that. And we have, because I feel like we're winding down. I feel like we have an album coming out soon. That's been a while. So check that out on your favorite streaming service. This one, I made it a huge one the entire last half of season 3 because I'm so behind. I was just like, well, it doesn't have to fit on a CD, so I'll just put like 25 songs out there.
Yeah, streaming. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not
So,
limited.
big ass album coming out soon. Yeah.
It's like a double vinyl album, essentially.
I think it's coming out on the 17th of February. Febreze Brewery.
Oh man, we got to go to the brewery. Yeah.
Flub blib blub bleep.
I feel like we've gone full circle, having landed on a Red Dwarf quote. So yeah, I mean, in the comment section, leave us your thoughts. What do you think about AI? What do you think sentience or self-awareness is? What is art? What are the pros and cons to AI systems? I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Are we in AI hell?
And is this a simulation too?
Is 666 the algorithm to get out?
Yeah.
Party time.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm glad you stuck it out with us, all of you who are still around. Yeah, this has been a pretty deep one.
All these other drunks. If they've been drinking along with us, them's gots to be drunks.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. Computer, end program.